Hello everyone! As you can see by the title of this video, what I'm going to be doing is going through each NFL division, predicting their record, predicting who's going to win the division, and at the end, predict the playoffs as well. I've seen a lot of mainstream media guys do this, and I've seen some absolutely horrendous takes. That is why it is up to me to actually give the correct predictions for what I think is going to happen with every single NFL team, and then eventually get into who's going to be winning the Super Bowl with these predictions. Now, something I've actually done is I've gone and predicted every single NFL game. There's things that you can look up that just give you every single game, and you can predict them. And these are the records that I got from them. I also just double checked just to make sure that it works, that all the records align with one another. I just wanted to be thorough when I did this. Like I said, I've seen some very, very bad takes with with some teams this season. And now obviously this isn't going to be perfect. Injuries are a big thing that could happen. You look at teams last year, and like the Bengals, they lost Joe Burrow. You look at the Browns, they just had bad quarterback play. I don't think anyone hurt. There's Deshaun Watson is trash now. Things happen. Eagles collapsed. Things you can't predict, but within my best knowledge, within what I think is going to happen, here we go. We're starting off strong with the NFC South, my Atlanta Falcons. I know I'm wearing a Georgia Bulldogs hat. I just think I look best in this hat compared to my Atlanta Falcons hats. That's the only reason I'm wearing this. And I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to win the division. I think it's still going to be very close. Like I said, as you can see here, I only have the Falcons winning the division by one game. I think it's going to be close, but I think everything the Atlanta Falcons have done this offseason will finally get them over the hump. They finally will no longer be 7-10, which they very well could be. But the Falcons also have the easiest strength of schedule. And that's something else that you got to take into account when doing this. There are some teams whose record is better than the team themselves, and vice versa as well. There are some teams who I think are better than their record will indicate, but they just have a brutal schedule, and that's not really any of these teams here, but we'll get to that later. Falcons this offseason did a ton. Brought in Kirk Cousins, brought in Darnell Mooney, recently just traded for Matthew Judon, got Justin Simmons. The Atlanta Falcons are a much better team this season than last season, and also upgraded at coaching too. They did a ton to get a lot of upgrades, and I think that's going to reward them with them winning the NFC South. The Buccaneers are basically the exact opposite of the Falcons, where they did basically nothing. The Buccaneers lost their offensive coordinator, and they got a center out of Duke in the draft. That's kind of it. Still got Cade Otton, still got Mike Evans, still got Chris Godwin, still got Rachaad White. Defensively, I know they're pretty similar as well. I know that they lost some of their corners, so maybe a tad worse defensively, but I'm not too worried about it. I think the Bucs go 9-8, which is what they went last year as well. Saints go 8-9. I've seen a lot of people say the Saints might even lose the division. I've seen some people say the Saints are 5-12. I think everyone's absolutely crazy. The Saints have always had a very average to mid roster and have always done very well. Now, they did have some very good teams with Drew Brees back in the day, but the last couple of years, the Saints roster has always been incredibly average, and the Saints always somehow seem to find ways to win one or two more games than they should. And I think 8-9, I believe they've been 8-9 or 9-8 the last 2 years, and they haven't done anything on their defense or on their offense to make me think otherwise. It's not like they're losing pieces. They still have the same exact pieces. I don't know why people think they're just going to massively collapse. People forget that Derek Carr actually isn't a terrible quarterback. Now, he's not good by any means, but Derek Carr isn't so bad that he's losing you games. He's just not good enough really to be winning you games. And then finally, Panthers 4-13. I still think the Panthers are trash. I really don't see him winning many games. Bryce Young looked terrible last year. Yes, his wide receivers also were not that good. And they did get Deontay Johnson. They did draft Xavier Legette. They did draft Jonathan Brooks. So they're trying to fix that offense. Let's not forget, though, they got worse on defense. They traded away Brian Burns for a second-round pick, their best defensive player, and then proceeded basically to do nothing to replace him. They also lost Frankie Aluvu, who was a really good middle linebacker for him. So while yes, the Panthers might have upgraded on offense last season, they got worse on defense, which is incredible to say how the worst team in the league last year got worse defensively. It's not looking good for the Panthers. Even if Bryce Young does heat up, maybe they can win 5-6 games. They're still going to be dead last in the division, I think. It's not going to be good for the Panthers, and they're going to have another bad year. At least this year, they'll be able to reap the rewards of being bad and actually use their first-round pick on a really good player. Now, I also don't want this video to be too long, so some teams like the 49ers here, I'm not going to talk too much about. It's still the 49ers. They've made it to the Super Bowl last year. I think it's their Super Bowl to lose, making it at least from the NFC. I think they are still the top dog. Them and maybe one other team are top dogs. I got them at 12-5 because they do have a very difficult schedule. They have to play the Chiefs this year. That's never easy. And then they are also playing the Bills division as well. So they got to play the Dolphins. They got to play the Bills. They're playing the Jets week 1, which I think they're going to win. But the 49ers, they got some tough games in there. That's what comes from winning the division. You know, you're going to have difficult games. And the 49ers are going to lose some of them. Their offensive line isn't that good. That's the scary thing about this 49ers team is their offensive line isn't the best in the world. Now, Kyle Shanahan and how fast their offense is able to kind of work around this. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, obviously Christian McCaffrey, one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player in the league. Best running back for sure in both running and catching. They're able to work around this poor offensive line. The defense is still great, though. You still got Nick Bosa. You still got Fred Warner. You still just have some incredible pieces on this defense. I still think it's the 49ers to lose. The Seattle Seahawks, I might have them overachieving here. Like, really looking at this, I might have the Seahawks overachieving. But they do have an easier schedule. Not the easiest in the world, but they do have an easier schedule since they finished third in their division last season. They still do have a lot of good offensive pieces. They still have Kenneth Walker. They still have DK Metcalf. They still, JSN is now coming into his second season. They still have a decent offensive line. Not the best, but decent offensive line. And I think the biggest thing for them is the new head coach the Seahawks brought in. They brought in the defensive coordinator from the Ravens last year, who consistently have a good defense. They went out and they drafted Byron Murphy. They still have, God, who's that really good defensive tackle that they traded from the Giants? Not Dexter Lawrence. Leonard Williams. They still have Leonard Williams. They're going to have a good defense. I think their defense is going to get better just because they now have the Ravens defensive coordinator as their DC. I think the Seahawks are definitely a team that can win some games, especially with their schedule. Next is the Rams, that I have them going 8-9. I've seen some takes. I've seen some people have the Rams literally winning this division. I think I've seen Colin Cowherd and Peter Skoronsky, but Peter Schlong or whatever his name is from Good Morning Football. I've seen a couple of people now predict the Rams to win the NFC West. What are you thinking? I don't understand how you can look at this Rams roster and tell yourself, oh yeah, they're better than the 49ers. Defensively, the 49ers beat the Rams out of the park. The Rams just lost Aaron Donald, who is arguably the most influential defensive player in football. He needs to be double-teamed, sometimes even triple-teamed. That's how good he is. Now that he's gone, the rest of the offensive line is going to suffer. Nobody's replacing his production. The Rams try to draft a lot of guys to replace his production, and I think they'll be good, but you literally used your first and second round pick on defensive line. And those rookies that are going to be starting aren't going to give you the same production as Aaron Donald is, and I think very rarely do you see a rookie edge rusher come into the league and actually make a significant difference. Yes, there's Micah Parsons. Yes, there's Nick Bosa. But is Jared Verse going to be the next Micah Parsons or Nick Bosa? I would argue that there's a better chance he's not. And let's say he even is. Let's say he is. The Rams' defense just isn't that good, man. It just doesn't have that much power. They just traded away Ernest Johnson, like what, the fourth, for basically scraps. I don't really get what the Rams are doing. And then offensively, Yes, you still have Puka Nacua. You have Kyron Williams, who both were excellent for you last year. You still have Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, but it's not like Kupp or Stafford are getting any older, or getting any younger, I mean. Their offensive line is average. The Rams are average. I think Sean McVay is going to be able to coach him a couple of wins, but that's another thing. The Rams lost all of their coaching staff around Sean McVay. Their defensive coordinator and their offensive guys all went over to the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams have a completely new coaching staff. And I think 8-9, maybe they can win a couple of more, but no way are they winning their division against the 49ers. And then finally, the Cardinals are 6-11. They're just lacking star power, man. Yes, they have Kyler Murray. Yes, they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Name a wide receiver behind Marvin Harrison Jr. They have Zay Jones, but he got suspended. And are you really going to sit here and tell me that Zay Jones is a wide receiver that you feel good about? Yes, they have Michael Wilson. He's a second year. He could develop. Yes, last year Trey McBride did really good, and he could definitely have a breakout third year here. But the Cardinals team, man, lacking star power, especially defensively. Defensively, they have Budda Baker. But then it's like, what, Zaven Collins is their second best defensive player? Zaven Collins, and he's not bad, but he's like above average. And you have an above average player as your second best defensive player. Not good. Cardinals have pieces. They're young. They can develop, but this is a young developmental year for them. Maybe Kyler Murray can get them a couple more wins, but definitely not making the playoffs. Next here, we have the NFC East, and I think the Eagles are going to win it. I just think they are the best team, hands down. The Commanders and the Giants both are garbage. Commanders and Giants are two of the worst teams in football, especially the Commanders, but we'll get to them in a second. The Eagles last year had their massive meltdown last season, absolutely massive meltdown, which does worry me a little bit going into this season. Now, the Eagles went all in defensively in the draft. They got Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. They got some really good guys, but it's tough for rookie corners. Very rarely do you see rookie corners come in and develop. Now, it's kind of hard to be worse than James Bradberry was last season for the Eagles. Good God, their corner play was absolutely atrocious. So the Eagles could get better defensively, but it's going to be very interesting to see how that defense plays. But regardless, their offense is still so good. Jalen Hurts, top 10 quarterback in the league. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, top 10 wide receiver duo in the league, probably even top 5. That offensive line, it did lose Jason Kelce, which does really matter, but they still do have some very solid pieces. And Kelce was, I forget who's going behind him, but I know he's been in the Eagle system. Kelce had been training him. I'm not too worried about it, but I still do think that that is a very underrated loss, them losing Jason Kelce there. That's not really talked about much. He was the best center in the league. Top 5 center, for sure. Tight end wise, they still have Dallas Goedert, but he didn't really do that much last year. But obviously bringing in Saquon is just massive for him. Better running back than they've had in years now. They now have one of the best running backs in the league. That's going to take some pressure off of Jalen Hurts. I do think that this Eagles team is going to be really good offensively, and that's going to at least help them out with their young defense, make their young defense better. But the Eagles get 4 easy wins because they play the Giants twice a year and they play the Commanders twice a year. So that's literally just 4 wins right there. And then I know they also play the Atlanta Falcons division as well. So they get an easy win against the Panthers, and then they're probably going to beat up on some of the other teams in there too. Cowboys at 10-7. The Cowboys have a pretty damn difficult schedule. They have to play the 49ers. They have to play the Lions. And they also have to go play the Ravens division. So they have to play the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, Browns. Not easy for Dallas. Dallas has a difficult schedule. And while they have some elite star power, the Cowboys have some elite star power that's going to just be able to bail them out of games. They have CeeDee Lamb, who they finally signed a contract to. They still have Parsons. You don't feel good about this Cowboys team. Their defense lost a lot of pieces in the offseason. Dan Quinn took a lot of guys with him to Washington. And now I really like that Mike Zimmerman is their new defensive coordinator. I think that's a great signing for him. The Cowboys lost a lot of guys defensively. They lost Stephon Gilmore. Bland is now going to be hurt for the first 8 weeks, so they got Trayvon Diggs back, but who's the corner 2 behind him? Yes, they have Micah Parsons. Who else is blitzing behind with Micah Parsons? This Cowboys defense isn't as good as it once was. And offensively, yes, CD Lamb held out for the entire year. I'm sure it's not going to affect him and Prescott too much, but you definitely don't feel good about it in any ways. We'll see what happens with Prescott, man. He's not happy. I still think this Cowboys team has star power. I think that's going to get them some wins. They have to play the Giants and the Commanders, like I said, twice a year. That's 4 cupcake wins for them, but it's not looking good for the Cowboys. Giants at 7-10. I've been beaten up on the Giants, but they have made some pretty underrated acquisitions this offseason. They went and traded for Brian Burns, who him and Kayvon Thibodeaux is actually going to be a really good edge rusher duo. Alongside Dexter Lawrence, this New York Giants defensive line could actually cause some serious issues. Now, besides that, the rest of the defense kind of sucks. They drafted Deonte Banks last season. I think he could take a big step up year 2. They don't got much after that in the secondary. Linebackers, they still got Blake Martinez, but he's okay. So this Giants defensive line, I think, is going to wreak some serious havoc and make life easier for the secondary. But if the Giants defensive line is not having a good game, it's going to look really rough for that defense. And then offensively, and I got to say, I don't hate Daniel Jones as much as other people do, but it's not like he's going to win a Super Bowl. I can tell you that much for sure. Their offensive line is still garbage. Yes, they now have Malik Nabers, but they lost Saquon. It's not looking good for the Giants. I have them at 7-10 because they do have kind of an easier, well, not really the easiest schedule, but I do think that their defensive line is going to be able to win them some games. Daniel Jones always typically has like one elite game for some reason, and he'll have that and give him an extra win. Then Commanders at 5-12. I really think the Commanders are going to suck this year. I have no faith in the Commanders at all. Dan Quinn is now coming in and being their head coach. Screw Dan Quinn. And Jaden Daniels, I don't like him at all, honestly. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. I think Washington was a terrible, terrible fit for Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, his biggest issue is that he takes too many sacks. Doesn't know when to slide. He gets hit too much. And he's going to literally the team that had the second worst offensive line last season and didn't do too much to upgrade it. They got Tyler Biadasz at center. They upgraded their center. That's it. They have center and they have Sam Cosmi at right guard. That's it. The rest of their offensive line, not good. It's not looking good for the Commanders. Hell, even in a preseason game, Jaden Daniels refused to slide and took a hit. In a preseason game, that doesn't matter. Jaden Daniels, if he doesn't get hurt, I mean, and you know what? It's completely random who gets hurt, right? It takes fluke plays, but Jaden Daniels, biggest issue, refuses to go down, going to the team that allowed the second most sacks last season. Also, who's he going to throw the ball to? He is Terry McLaurin. When I saw they traded away Jahan Dotson, I really thought that they were going to get Brandon Ayuk or go out and sign someone. They haven't. It's Terry McLaurin and then Olamide Zaccheaus at wide receiver 2. Are you fucking kidding me? Olamide Zaccheaus. Who's he throwing the ball to? The shell of Zach Ertz? Austin Eckler? Who's Jaden Daniels throwing it to? I don't think Jaden Daniels would be this bad if he went to a different team, sat for a year, and had weapons. He's going behind the second worst offensive line, where he's got basically no one to throw the ball to except Terry McLaurin. That is your only reliable target that you feel good about. If you're going to sit here and tell me that Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, and Olamide Zaccheaus are guys that you feel good about, you don't know ball. I'm sorry. If those are guys that you really are feeling strong about right now, put them on your fantasy team, and we'll see just how strong and how happy you feel about them. Not to mention this defense still isn't good either. Commanders going to suck. Finally here, I got the NFC North. When I said earlier, I think it's the 49ers to lose. I think the Lions also have a great shot of winning it as well. The Lions literally choked away a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game last season, and they should have made it to the Super Bowl. It was so sad that they didn't, but the Lions actually literally only got better this offseason. I know that they got DJ Reader to bolster their defensive line, and they went all in on the defense in the draft as well. Like I said, rookie corners with Brian Branch, they had him last year. Terrion Arnold, who I think was a great pickup for the Lions. It's going to take time, but that Lions defense is young. I think they're definitely going to improve. DJ Reader's big help for them on their defensive line. Offensively, now Jameson Williams is finally going to be in the starting role for him. We'll see if he breaks out for them. But they still have Swift, they still have Montgomery, still have a top offensive line. I think this division is the Lions to win, or to lose, I should say. The Packers are a team that's also kind of in a really weird spot for me, man. Packers are in such a weird spot for me because last year they had some really high highs and some really low lows. And it's just tough to see who they're going to be. Packers are still one of the youngest teams in football. I think the youngest team. And it's just really hard to get a read on them because, like I said, they had some games where Jordan Love and that offense was clicking and firing on all cylinders. And then they had some games where, good God, they looked absolutely atrocious. Same with the defense. Literally, the Packers are such a hard team to gauge because, like I said, high highs, low lows. I think 10-7 is perfectly fine for them. Like I said, I went through and picked every single game. They have some tough games on their schedule, but some games they should win. Bears 8-9. I think the Bears are literally a definition of a year away. I think Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze just need a year under each other's belts. Their offensive line is still really solid. Their defense is still really solid. But I just think defensively, they're just missing one more piece. Like, Montez Sweat is great, but if they had an edge rusher alongside Montez Sweat, or if they had a big-time linebacker, yes, I know that they have Terrell Edmonds. I think it's Terrell Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds? They've one of the Edmond brothers. If they just had one more, like, whoa, or a big defensive tackle, like if they signed Christian Wilkinson, if they just had one more big playmaker on this defense, I think this defense is great. Yeah, Jalen Johnson is really good in the secondary, but I think they're just missing one more star. One more star on that defense, and then that defense is legit. Then offensively, I just think that offense needs a year to mesh with each other. I think the Bears maybe could do a little bit better than this, but let's also forget, let's calm down, this is the Bears. Until I actually see the Bears have a winning season and have a quarterback actually do well, it's kind of hard to bank on him. There have been quarterbacks for the Bears, that we thought were going to be surefire things. Now, Caleb Williams is a little bit different, but, I'm going to calm down here. It is still the Bears. And then Vikings 6-11. It sucks that J.J. McCarthy got a season-ending injury, but it's like now they've really got Sam Darnold out there. And while, yes, they definitely have pieces on their offense, they still got Jay Jettas. They went out and signed Aaron Jones. They still got Jordan Addison. E.J. Hawkinson's hurt right now. Their offensive line's still really good. Then defensively, they suck ass. Dallas Turner might be their best defensive player, and he's literally a rookie. That's how bad their defense is. Yes, I know they just signed Stephon Gilmore. No clue why the hell Stephon Gilmore decided to go to the Minnesota. But, alas, whatever. Now that we got the NFC out of the way, time to quickly get into the AFC here. As you can see, I have the Jags, Titans, and Colts all going 8-9. I honestly think that these teams are very close. I think the Colts, I'm too high on them. Honestly, I think the Colts shouldn't be this high. I think they're going to be the worst team in the league. But let me just quickly go over things here. Texans, 11-6. They could be better than this. The more I look at this AFC South, this is definitely the division I feel the worst about. Like, I highly doubt this is actually the division shakes up, but just predicting games, man, it's just so tough. So tough. Obviously, the Texans are the best team in that division. Went out and got Stephon Diggs. Went out and got, I'm blanking on his name right now, but it was the edge rusher from Minnesota. That pisses me off. I can't think of his name. But the big-time edge rusher from Minnesota. If I think about it, I'll say it. I'm sure everyone knows I'm just a moron. They got some pieces. CJ Stroud's going to take a big step year two. Got Joe Mixon as well. This Texans team is going to be absolutely incredible. I gave them 6 wins just because they do have a hard schedule since they won their division last year. They got to play the Chiefs. They got to play the Ravens. They got to play the Cowboys and the Eagles. They got to play the Chiefs. They got to play the Bills. They got to play the Ravens. They have some tough games on their schedule. CJ Stroud is still somewhat young, and we'll just see what happens. And then Jags, Titans, and Colts. I don't know why I put them all at 8-8. It's just how the games worked out, okay? It's just how the games worked out. I think the Titans are a very underrated team. I think the Titans are incredibly underrated. They went out and they got, let's just name all the pieces that the Titans got. Calvin Ridley, Ladarius Shaneed, Jamal Adams, Ernest Jones, drafted J.C. Latham. Went out and got the Bengals OC as their head coach. I think they got Kenneth Murray at linebacker as well. I know they got a good linebacker. The Titans upgraded last season, man. The Titans did a lot to upgrade. And if Will Levis can take a step up in year 2, this Titans team's going to be good. I think it relies a ton on Will Levis. And yes, because now they have so many new guys, they all have to kind of mesh and play well together. But if Will Levis takes a step up, man, I think this team could be very good. Jaguars, they have a tough schedule. And I'm just not high on the Jaguars at all. Trevor Lawrence has had half of a good season. Half of a good season, okay? Let's not pretend Trevor Lawrence has actually lived up to number 1 overall standards here. He's had half a good season while he's had weapons. I'm not high on this Jaguars team. Defensively, they went out and got some pieces as well, but I'm just not sold on the Jaguars. I'm really not. And the Colts, like I said, I think I have the Colts too high here. Anthony Richardson, again, same exact thing with the Titans. Really depends on what he does here. The Colts have some good young weapons that are really they still have Jonathan Taylor, still have a good offensive line. Defensively, they have some pieces. They still have DeForest Buckner. But I think the Colts are probably going to do worse than this. That's why I put them at dead last in their division. Not too high on the Colts. Then AFC West here. I got the Chiefs winning the division at 11-6. Really hard to think that the Chiefs aren't going to three-peat. Even if they don't do that good in the regular season, as we saw last year, it was the weakest Chiefs team in a while, and they still won the Super Bowl. That's just how good the Chiefs are in the playoffs, man. The Chiefs just have that experience with Coach Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, good offensive line. And spoilers for tonight, I am going to pick the Chiefs to beat the Ravens tonight as well. Just what can I say about this Chiefs team, man? What do you want me to say? They're the Chiefs. Of course, they're going to be here at number 1. And the rest of the AFC West, I don't have anyone having a winning record. Raiders at 8-9. Raiders have a good defense, meh offense. And even when I say good defense, they have a good defensive line and good corners. But that linebacker group is interesting. And their safeties are interesting. Their corners aren't even crazy as well. This Raiders team, I think, is very, very average. They have some very good, solid players, and then some players that it's like, why are you starting them? Minshew's their starting quarterback, okay? And I don't think Minshew's bad, but I don't think he's crazy elite as well. You really think Minshew's going to be the team that makes you to the promised land? I don't think so. Chargers at 7-10. This is tough. Obviously, Harbaugh's coming back. They're switching to a run-style offense. They drafted Joe Alt. I really like their offensive line. I think that's going to help Herbert. But you got to be able to pass the ball. And Herbert can pass. It's just his top target is Joshua Palmer and Ladd McConkey. And then their defense still is bad. Let's not forget that this is still the Chargers defense that has been worst in the league the last 3 years. Not having Brandon Staley is significantly going to help. But it's like Joey Bosa hasn't been Joey Bosa the last couple of seasons. And yeah, they have Khalil Mack and Derwin James, but not too much after that. And then the Broncos are just going to suck. I don't want this video to be too long, so the Broncos are going to suck. They got Bo Nix starting. They got nobody on defense besides Patrick Surtain. Not looking good for the Broncos. Then AFC East, I can't believe I have the Jets winning the division. I don't think the Jets are the best team in this division, but they have a cupcake schedule. I don't know if you've seen the Jets schedule. They got a cupcake schedule. So week 1, the Jets get smoked by the 49ers, right? Listen to the schedule after week 1. Titans, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings, Bills, Steelers, Patriots. Then they got the Texans in there. Then Cardinals, Colts. They also have the Seahawks and the Rams. The only tough non-divisional game the Jets have is the 49ers and the Texans. That's 2. They have 2 tough divisional games. Besides that, the Jets got some cupcakes. And even though I don't think the Jets are the best team in this division, I would definitely say the Bills and the Dolphins are better teams than the Jets. The Jets just have such an easy non-divisional schedule that I think the Jets are going to be able to get some cupcake wins and finish the division 10-7, even though they don't deserve it. Literally in my thing, though, I did have it come down to the Jets were 9-7 and the Dolphins were 9-7, and the Jets and Dolphins play the last week in New York. I had that game determine the division. I had the Jets winning that game, so the Dolphins could have won that game in New York and won the division. But as you know, last year, the Dolphins collapsed at the late season and didn't win their division. Buffalo did. And both Buffalo and the Dolphins had to gut their defense this offseason. Both Buffalo and the Dolphins lost a ton of pieces defensively, and Buffalo even lost some pieces offensively too. Buffalo and the Dolphins are completely different teams, at least defensively this season than last season, and in worse ways. They had to gut some of their core good pieces that have been with the team for a very long time. Where New York is the only team that actually added. New York got better. I don't think they're good. Like I said, I don't think they're good. They're a first-round playoff loss for sure. Aaron Rodgers, who knows what the hell is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. But even if Aaron Rodgers isn't that good, he can't be worse than Zach Wilson last season. Like, he just can't be worse than Zach Wilson. That was atrocious. And the Jets still went 8-9 last year, even with atrocious quarterback play. Even putting average quarterback play in there with Aaron Rodgers, maybe above average. This Jets team with a cupcake schedule goes 10-7. Like I said, Bills and Dolphins have definitely have a harder schedule than the Jets. So they just got some harder games in there. Dolphins I'm not high on Tua. And then Patriots suck. Again, like with the Broncos, just a bad team. And then finally, here we got the AFC North. The AFC North has such a difficult schedule. I think all of these teams have potential to finish the season with winning records, but good God, they have difficult schedules. The AFC North is playing the NFC East, so they have to play the Cowboys and the Eagles, which is two very difficult games. The Ravens have to go and play the Chiefs. I think one of these two teams is playing the 49ers. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just tripping right now when I say that. But just difficult schedule for both these teams. The Bengals have an easier schedule, but it's tough down the end. Same with the Browns. I want to read off this Browns schedule, just like how I read off the Jets schedule. Now, I think the Browns have a great defense. I think they have great coaching. I think Deshaun Watson is truly the only thing holding this Browns team back. Let me read off their schedule after the bye week, okay? Their bye week's week 10. Starting week 11. At Saints, Steelers, at Broncos, Steelers, Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens. That's their last 8 games. Their last 4 weeks, Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins, Ravens, and it's at Bengals, at Ravens. They go 0-4. The Browns literally could be in a playoff spot and go 0-4 to finish the season, which that's actually literally what I had them doing. I had the Browns being 8-5 and then losing their last 4 games because they have to play Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, and Bengals. Brutal. Browns get absolutely shafted. But I think Ravens and Bengals are the two best teams. You could give Ravens another win, make them be 12-5. I think they're going to win the division. That's what I have them doing. And then Steelers, obviously, quarterback play is going to be shaky. They always find a way to go 9-8. Until they don't have a winning season with Mike Tomlin, it's just hard for me to say that they're not going to. Bengals 11-6. They're like the Browns. They have a difficult schedule towards the end, but the Bengals have a very easy midsection, which I think they're going to be able to rack up some wins with. Okay, I can't lie. Like I said, I don't want this video to be too long. I completely forgot to make a playoff page. So yeah, I just put together all these PNGs to show you guys the playoff picture. Does it look like complete garbage? Yes. But, so looking at the AFC, Chiefs 1 seed. Because, like I said, I have the Chiefs beating the Ravens today. Crazy how literally today, this game is going to determine who gets the 1 seed. I got the Chiefs being the 1 seed, Ravens being the 2 seed, Texans being the 3 seed, Jets being the 4 seed, with the Bengals, Bills, and Dolphins rounding that up. Bills, Dolphins, and Steelers all finished 9-8, but unfortunately the Steelers get left off due to tiebreakers. Now, in this scenario here, where Dolphins are 7 seed, Ravens are 2 seed, Ravens win. I think Texans 3 seed, Bills 6 seed will feed families, but I think Texans win. And then I do think that the Bengals will beat the Jets. So then we got Ravens, Texans. That's going to be a really good game. That could go either way. The Ravens are home. I just realized that the Ravens and Texans, I'm pretty sure, played last year, and I think that the Ravens are going to... Ravens and Texans is so tough for me. Ravens and Texans is just so tough for me. I will give it to the Ravens. Why not? They have Derrick Henry now. And then Chiefs Bengals, that honestly could go either way as well. As you know, the Bengals are the Chiefs killer. If the Bengals are here in the playoffs right now and have momentum, I honestly really truly think the Bengals can win this game. But I'm going to give it to Kansas City, right? You can't go against Kansas City in the playoffs. And then, surprise, surprise, Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl. Then on the NFC side, you got Lions Seahawks. I think Lions win that game. I just realized you got Eagles Packers. Honestly, you can't look at it through last year's lens. It depends like where the team is now, but I think there's always an upset. I think the Packers could beat the Eagles this game. And then also you got Cowboys Falcons. Cowboys are beating the Falcons in this game. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are winning that one. Then you got Cowboys Lions. I think Lions win that one pretty easily. Then you got Packers 49ers. 49ers just own the Packers, so I got 49ers winning that one. And then you got Lions San Fran. Literally a rematch of last season. I think that the Lions are going to play hard. And honestly, I think the Lions are going to make the Super Bowl. I think we're going to see a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl. It's a lot harder to predict the AFC for me because when looking at this NFC, I really think it's only going to be the 49ers and the Lions. Like, I don't have any other team doing it besides the 49ers or the Lions. It's going to be one of those two. But then when you look at the AFC, I could see the Chiefs making it. I could see the Ravens making it. I could see the Texans making it. I could see the Bengals making it. It's so tough. I do think whoever makes out of the AFC wins it. So I will have the Chiefs beating the Lions. I will have the Chiefs three-peating. It's not the sexy pick. What, do you want me to give you a flashy, sexy pick? I'm doing what I think is the most accurate, and the Chiefs have won back-to-back years for a reason, and they got better offensively. Yes, they got worse defensively, but they got better offensively, and I think Patrick Mahomes and this offense is going to continue to ride. Like I said, I could see the Ravens, Bengals, or Texans all being in the spot, and I think if they were, I think they're going to beat the Lions in the Super Bowl. I just had the Lions beating the 49ers just because I feel like the 49ers are doing their all-in last dance push here, and that just never wins. So anyways, guys, let me know down below if you agree or disagree with my playoffs and with my team prediction. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.